Good evening, everybody. Hey, Marcus C. Williams here. And if you're joining me for the first time, I appreciate you. Like, subscribe, follow, depending on what platform you're on right now. Make sure you click subscribe, make sure you click follow so that you can stay up to date with anything that I got coming up in the future so you can always catch up with my latest videos. Now, normally I do something about a let's talk and talk about something specific, but this evening I'd like to do something a little different. I'd like to share a little bit of a story about our country, about our past, where we've come from, what we've been through, and our present, what's happening now, what's going on, and our future, where we're going, and what might be or what could be. There's so much going on in our country right now, so I think it's best to start at the beginning. America, we were founded by a whole bunch of settlers as a nation, right? That's the story. We get some Western Europeans sliding on over here from England, and they come over here with guns and diseases, and they settle in America, kill off many people that live on these lands to lay claim to the land on which the people already lived. That is a sin that's not necessarily so easily forgotten or easily forgiven, but I think that the key point here that everybody has to remember is when they came over here with guns and diseases, and that's how they took over, with superior weaponry and diseases. Pay attention, this is an important piece of the story to remember. Now, these particular individuals, the story has it, came over here for religious freedom because of religious persecution. They weren't able to practice their religion freely and worship the Lord. So they decided to come to a new land. So they set out and they went over vast oceans. They traveled for months, and they hit all types of weather. Many people died. There were diseases on these ships, and the conditions were full of squalor. But they arrived at the shores of what we called the New World. And they settled here. They decided that they were going to build a new life for themselves, a life where they could worship freely, a life where they can actually celebrate the morals and values that they had that were steeped in religious principle. Now, when they came over here, there were people already living here. These people were unfamiliar with these new settlers to these lands. Many tried to befriend them, others tried to drive them off. And as we see, what actually ended up happening was the settlers brought more settlers, and more settlers had more guns and more weaponry and more diseases. And they basically did everything that they could to settle more of the land in this new territory that we call America. As the years progressed, America grew. Now, at this point, it wasn't America, it was just colonies of England. These colonies were part of the English monarchy's rule and dominion. But they started to grow a culture unto themselves, a culture of freedom, a culture that was steeped in values that were based on religion. Now, I know that everybody that watching this isn't very religious, but I do believe that this is a very core point that needs to be noted because it'll be very crucial coming up here soon. As the story progresses, stuff starts to go in a little bit of an interesting direction. They brought slavery over here as a practice from Europe, even though there were slaves in the American well, the Americas, not that they were called the Americas at that time, but the Americas as it was, but they brought in a different form of slavery, something to help change the landscape of our whole country. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that. So we had all of these native people here, these indigenous people, the Native Americans, we call them, or better known as American Indians. We had them here. Many were driven off their lands, many were driven into slavery. Now, as the story goes, and you can be the judge of this however you want, then because of labor, they decided to start bringing in Africans from Africa as slaves to subsidize their Native American workforce. And the slavery population grew and grew and grew. Now, some people in this country were not very fond of this practice of slavery. It's very, very, very important that we understand that back to the roots and the settlers that originally came here, it was for their own religious freedom. We're talking about people who did believe in the Bible. Many Puritans, others Quakers, and many other religions that had popped up over time and had come to the American shores. Now, at this point, America was starting to derive its own culture out of what was essentially a new world and what was the old world. So really, in America, we had this coming together of two cultures to form a whole new one, completely unique in and of itself, but still steeped in religion. Some things happened, some years passed, and then the king of England, decided he was going to raise taxes or levy higher taxes on certain goods and stuff like that in America. People didn't like that. They didn't take kindly to that at all. Here's an important thing. At that time, America was paying the lowest tax rate in the empire. We're talking like 3% taxes, like 3% taxes, and the people weren't very happy with that at all. So, as the story goes, people started to get very angry at the king. They're like, listen, you don't know how life works here. We run the stuff over here. This is our place. You shouldn't really have any business telling us that we should give you more money because we're already giving you enough money as it is. Plus, you're a whole months away journey across the ocean. Who are you to tell us how much we should pay you when we've already been paying you? And the king said, you know what? I don't like the way that you're talking to me. So he sent more army soldiers over here. And the army soldiers did not like the colonials very much, even though many of them had strong ties to the homeland in England. But you also had many that were French. You had people who were indigenous, and you also had people who were from other places in the world, including Africa. So it was already becoming a melting pot of cultures. And this was what will soon turn into the American nation, the United States of America. And here's the funny part about that. With 3% taxes, people started to get upset about them being raised. And they said, you know what? We're not going to have any of it. When the King George sent over more troops, they're like, listen, y'all don't have any dominion over us. We do what we want. But see, here's the story. As you remember, I might have started off that the people that settled these lands in America, in the New World, had superior weaponry to the people who were living there at present. So now you've got these new soldiers, these soldiers coming over from Britain, a lot more well-armed, a lot better regimented. than the colonials in the lands of America. This is very interesting because the colonials didn't really have a standing army of their own. They relied on the king's army because they were still part of the United Kingdom. The funny thing is that the colonials were not very fond of what the king was doing and him sending more troops over here. So they decided, you know what? We're not having any more of it. We've had about as much as we can take. So people started to gather in churches, in bars, and they would say, hey, I don't like what's going on. I'm angry. We should do something about this. And this happened in churches and bars all throughout the colonies and the territories, mostly at this time in America, what would be known as America. And people sat in these bars and they drank. They drank. This is water. Drink water. Stay hydrated. But they didn't drink water. They drank beer. They drank ale. They drank wine. They drank mead. And they'd sit and they'd talk and they'd conversate and have back and forths of dialogue about what's wrong with our fledgling colonies and what can be done better. So some of these men decided that they were going to start writing essays and they were going to start drafting papers to let others in America, in the New World, right, in the colonies, know that they did not like the direction that the country was going as a whole, as a kingdom, and they didn't feel that the king should have any domain over them and that things needed to change. And they started whispering in churches, in saloons, in bars, in taverns. And they would come together and they would congregate and they would talk and have conversations. Now, remember these places, remember these churches, remember these taverns, because he's going to come very much so into play as we catch up to the future here really quick. So the sentiment that what the government that was the ruling class were doing to the general colonists was going on was not okay. The colonists rebelled, long story short. And through much gumption, much pain, much suffering, very high stakes, they rebelled against what at the time was the paramount of military strategy, ingenuity, weaponry, some farmers, some traders, hell, even some slavers, some librarians, some nobodies and no ones decided to take up arms against one of the most powerful militaries in the history of the world, because they said that they did not like how they were being treated. Now, at this time, you could go buy firearms. The firearms that you were able to access would be the same type of weaponry that the military would have from England, because you would use them for hunting, protection, defense, and occasionally you'd challenge the person that felt pretty self-righteous or may have besmirched your honor to a duel, because that's what you did, honor, integrity, stuff like that used to be important. Family, and it was very interesting because they decided to unite together with the arms that they had, even though they didn't have as much training, even though they weren't as strong in numbers, to rebel. And they did successfully. Against all odds, the colonists were able to achieve a victory with the help of others, mind you. Can't forget France. They did help us out in the Revolutionary War, even though we won't talk about World War II France. We know what happened there. But anyway, also shout out to the late Charles de Gaulle. Love that dude. Anyway, the colonists rebelled and they won. They won over some petty taxes that were being forced upon them. At that point, taxes were like nothing. Now, today, in present day, we pay about 40% taxes. They rebelled over 3% taxes. How on earth are we paying 40% taxes when they rebelled over 3%? There was a whole revolution over 3% of taxes. Now, after the revolution, during, we drafted a few things. We drafted, of course, previous to that, the Articles of Confederation, stuff like that. But two very key documents, not that that wasn't one, that was very much so one. But two very key documents were the Declaration of Independence, which basically said that certain rights are inalienable and given by the Lord, and that we have a list of grievances that we're not going to allow the government of this faraway power that is filled with elitist establishmentism. I just made that word up, but it's okay. You get the idea. That we were not going to let them rule us because they ain't acting right. And that's to sum it up. After we got rid of them, we drafted the Constitution. Constitution. If you don't have a pocket constitution, get you a pocket constitution, get you a regular size constitution, get you one for your wall, get you a constitution, because you should always have one. Now, the Constitution sets some rights out, and I'll just go over a couple because I think that they're very important. It also goes in the Constitution, which are also very important, establishing the way that our government is to function. That's a very, very crucial part to the way that our country functions. But, you had the First Amendment, free speech and all that, right? But I think probably the biggest thing about free speech, which people forget, is what else is in the First Amendment, because people say First Amendment, free speech. It is free speech, but there's other stuff in there, and I will read it to you now. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. See, here's this religion thing again. This religion thing in churches, they seem to be very important to our founding as a nation. It seems to keep popping up. Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So no prohibiting that exercise of religion. I think you guys are going to want to hold on to that. You're going to need to remember that in a couple minutes here. Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, because the press was something that was new at the time, where they were able to mass produce papers and they were able to pass them out to people all over the place. So free press right now for us today, in today's day and age, would basically be the same idea and the same concept as the internet. Being able to post and put stuff on the internet. Free speech, free press, that's really what it is when you post something on the internet, even though people argue that the internet is the different social media places are private companies. They can do whatever they feel like it. That's not really the way that it's supposed to be. So says this is what we are all about. And it continues. Or the right of the people to peaceably assemble. That's very, very, very important. The right to peaceably assemble. And this is important. And to petition the government for a redress of their grievances. Now, that's probably one of the most important parts right there of this. But I'm glad that it's all together as one, because each part is an important, crucial part that made the revolution very successful. Freedom of religion and establishment thereof, right? Remember, we were talking about people would meet in churches and they would talk in churches and they would say what they were dissatisfied about in churches, and they would do that? Yes. Freedom of speech, the ability to just speak up and say what's going on that's not right, and the ability to redress your grievances with your government without them just throwing you in jail or treating you anyway or executing you or beating you or whatever the case is. That's why we have the right to redress our grievances with our government. It's right there. It's in our Constitution. Seems somehow nowadays, currently, our governmental system has seemed to forget completely about that. And people will make excuses for the government. Oh, well, this is this is that, this is it. It's all excuses. If it's outside of the Constitution, you're full of malarkey. Nobody need to hear that. Okay? And this is very, very important. And this takes us into the Second Amendment. That was the First Amendment, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom to redress your government with your grievances, freedom to peaceably assemble, which they are limiting your right to peaceably assemble now. They're limiting it. They're limiting your right of free press. You can't put up a meme, because if you put up a meme, they're going to put you in jail. We just saw that today. It's crazy. And we're not talking about Trump. Trump's just a distraction on what's really happening in our nation at this time. This gentleman went to jail today. They tried to put him in jail for 10 years for putting up a meme. Okay, because his memes, he only had like 50,000 followers. I don't even know who the hell he is. I ain't even ever seen the meme that people were so mad about. But it was against Hillary Clinton, and they were trying to say that it was an election interference because of the meme. Right? Free press, free speech, all of that, redressing grievances. Seems interesting. Now, the Second Amendment, let's jump into that, is a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state. Now, a free state, right? That's our ability to operate freely without authoritarianism, without a monarchy, without somebody breathing down our neck or putting their boot on our neck. That's what that's all about. A militia at the time is something different than we would consider now. A militia would be any man that's able-bodied, okay, who could field a firearm. That would be considered a militia, okay? The right of the people to keep and bear arms, and this is the important part, shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. Now, basically, what the first two amendments do is assure us that if the government acts up, we will have a way to redress our grievances with them. We will be protected from our government. We will have the ability to protect ourselves from our government. And we will have the ability to stand up, speak up. And we can reinforce that with our protection of ourselves. But now the government wants to do whatever they can to take that away. As we have seen, and now we're catching up to present time, as we've seen with our current events as of late, what's happening right now is they are locking all types of people up for speaking up, okay? They're trying to shut down gun manufacturers, and they have successfully in many parts of the country. They're trying to take away your right or limit your right to bear arms, even though it says shall not be infringed. We just read it. Shall not be infringed. The right of the people to bear arms. That's all of us. To bear arms. Okay. You don't have to have one, but you have the right to bear arms. And they weren't talking about, oh, you should be limited to a pea shooter while the government has machine guns. They're saying that you should have the same armaments that the government and their military has, because they just got out of a war. Hello, the Revolutionary War. And they knew what time it was for authoritarian governments. And I could go into the Declaration of Independence and read why that backs up and supports the First and Second Amendment, as well as the rest of the Constitution. But we have to remember that right now, if you speak up, they'll try to shut you down. They'll work with social media to deplatform you if you say something that they deem is wrong. They will work to make sure that whatever you say is not heard by the people. And they'll say that that's not a limitation of free speech. That's not a limitation of free press, but it is. It really is. And what's worse is they'll circulate certain particular things that they want. And now we know that the government has colluded with these social media networks, okay, social media platforms, and the media at large to pump us full of all types of propaganda and to limit anybody's independent voice or free speech. Now, this is a very serious issue, right? And you might say, well, Marcus, they're their own private businesses. This is fair, right? But let's take for a second Google, right? Google is a search engine. Well, they're more than just that, but the Google search engine specifically. Why would you possibly be downranked, right? See, now here's the deal. It's an indexing software, basically, that's used to index pretty much the internet. And that's what everybody relies on. But why would you not be able to get your results for your specific stuff that you want to talk about up on your screen on the first page or the second page or even the fifth or sixth page? Because they're going to downrank you to wherever they want you, so far down the rank that nobody will ever see you. These are things that need to be talked about that we're not talking about. And we desperately need to talk about them. Now, here's the most important thing, pulling the future and the current history together. Very recently, COVID came out, COVID-19, 2019, that's what they said, whatever the case was. There were shutdowns because of that, right? But there were some businesses that were able to stay open. Those businesses that were able to stay open were labeled essential businesses. Marijuana dispensaries, liquor stores, stuff like that, right? Stuff that'll help you ease the pain, right? Stuff that'll make you feel as though you are in an altered state, so you are not really realizing how bad things are going on around you are. Now let's look at what got shut down. Bars got shut down. What were bars? Bars, like taverns, those things that we talked about where the revolution was born. What else did they shut down? Churches, they shut down churches where, again, the revolution was born. Why? Because why would they want you in bars? Why would they want you in churches when you can talk with other people and you can pass and bounce ideas off of each other and you could commiserate about how terribly you're being treated? Okay. And there's a free exchange of ideas at the bar. There's a free exchange of ideas at church, or that's what the commonality is between them. And they just did whatever they could to limit your ability to have free exchange of ideas by shutting down churches and by shutting down bars. You guys really got to pay attention, because if you're not paying attention, you're asleep. And if you're asleep, I'm doing my best to wake you up. Don't be woke, because when you're woke, that means that you've been roused. And that means that you are not able to fully cognitively understand exactly what's going on. Because if you say that somebody woke you up, that means they rustled and jesseled you out your sleep and you up and you're like, huh, what, where, what's going on? You can't even understand your surroundings. And that's what a lot of people got going on right now. They're woke. They're not awake. Awake is to be present of mind. Awake is to be able to understand your surroundings. I need you guys to be awake and wake up fully. What we're seeing right now currently. Okay, we are in the middle of, we've got our former president, okay, Trump, right? Like, he's become a media circus, right? So he's a media circus. They give us circuses and bread, right? Like the Roman Empire, give them circuses and give them bread and they'll never rebel. This is what's going on. First, they tried to quell rebellion by shutting down churches and shutting down bars, because they didn't want you to have exchange of ideas. Then they censored you on the internet because they didn't want you to have a free exchange of ideas. It had nothing to do with a virus. It had nothing to do with that. This was all about power and control this whole time. And you can say, oh, well, Marcus, there was a virus. Yes, I'm sure that you believe that. I'm sure that there was. And I am also sure that there is no reason for you to believe that something that is negative could not be used by our government and the people that are in power to actually manipulate, curate, and alter the way that you think and perceive reality. Because our government is good at one thing, and one very good thing that they're good at is manipulating our population, and they don't miss a beat there. The only people better at that than America is the Chinese, okay? So let's be honest and let's be upfront. This direction in which we are going is not a very good one, and they've already put a lot of effort in to making sure that they can censor how you believe, that they can divide us however they can. They want to continue to divide us because they don't want us to be able to unite, because they know if we were able to start commiserating together over all the stuff that's happening and going on in America right now, that we might flip their table over, and they dang gone sure don't want us to flip their table over. And here's the deal, right? All of these shutdowns and everything destroyed our economy. made it emaciated, right? Like made it a empty husk of its former self. While we also had policies instituted by those in the highest office of the land, the president and Congress, that continued to bastardize and destroy our economic ability to be able to progress, to be able to lift up our people economically and financially. All of that was taken away from us during this period of time. And here we are now, still suffering from the results. It's difficult for many people to find a job in many states, especially if you're in a blue state. It's difficult for people to make certain wages because we've got all types of other issues between mechanization and AI. We've also got the issues with the trade routes are still all jacked up. Those never really recovered. And that's a whole nother conversation. We've got illegal aliens pouring through our borders, okay? And all types of other crazy, crazy things. Let's not forget the drugs flowing into our borders. And let's not forget the crime either, right? All of this that's going on is a massive distraction. All of it. All of it. All of it is a massive distraction, you guys. And all of it is being used for multiple different various ways to make it so that the people that are in power can stay in power and gain more power over you. Look at what we've got going on right now. We've got all of these crazy accidents, right? All of these crazy accidents happening everywhere. Tractor trailers blowing up, catching on fire, pouring hazardous materials all over the place. Trains just seem to all the trains just seem to be crashing every single day. It's so many, it's crazy now, right? We've got barges full of all types of crazy chemicals, tons and tons of chemicals leaking into the water and into the atmosphere, into the streams and stuff. We've got hundreds of food plants that over the last couple of years have mysteriously gone poof. And I don't mean gone poof like they shut down. I mean gone poof like they blew up, they caught fire, they fell down to the ground, something happened to them. Okay? If you're not awake, you're asleep. I need you to wake up. Okay? I need you to wake up. Don't be woke. Be awake. Okay, there is a reason why they want to divide us. There is a reason why they want to keep us divided. There's a reason why they want to keep us separated. Look at what they've done. They separated us black and white. They separated us by race. They've separated us by gender, male and female. And now they've got trans, whatever that even means, which people can't even tell you what that actually means. You know, they got non-binary again, whatever the hell that means, right? Because what even does that mean? These are things that we need to be having conversations about, okay? But out of that, they've used that to divide us also, okay? Then they've got all types of other things that they've decided to divide us on. Socioeconomic status, region of the country, political beliefs, religious beliefs, and this massive attack on the church and attack on Christians that continues to happen, which our elected officials refuse to speak up on, even though most of our elected officials are Christian or are Catholic. And that is a very serious problem because nobody's talking about what's happening to the Christians where we are being persecuted, we are being attacked, we are being murdered, and nobody will speak up for us. I'll speak up for us. I'll speak up because somebody needs to. Lord bless. Amen. Okay. But they're trying to separate us by religion and everything. Well, now is the time that we need to come together again, because if we come together and we start talking about the bogus bull jive that's going on, we might flip the daggone table over because we'd realize that they don't have as much power as they say. What did Biden say? Biden said, well, if you're going to want to do something, you're going to need F-16s and you're going to need nukes. That's what Biden said out his mouth. That is a direct quote from the president of the United States. I don't know what to tell you. If you're not paying attention, you sleep. Got to wake up. Got to wake up. This is a real life story. Okay. This is not a movie on the television. This is real life. And here's the deal. They have divided us so much for all types of different ways. But we as the people still have the ability to come together and say, hey, we're not going to fall for the nonsense that you're saying. We're going to come together in unity. We're going to come together in community. But no, they'll try to say, oh, well, let's release all the criminals. Now, here's the crazy thing, right? So, as they release all the criminals, they're also telling you to give up your weapons, but they're releasing all the criminals. They're also working on getting rid of the police. You know, the police are your local law enforcement. Your local law enforcement tends to have some sort of a ties to the community. Some people will say, well, Marcus, but they hate people and da 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 and da 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 da. That is not for this conversation. This conversation is you need to wake the hell up. Okay. The fact of the matter is that the police are the nearest law enforcement unit that is close and based in the neighborhoods, in the communities, in the surrounding area. Usually they live not too far, maybe not directly in, but not too far from the areas in which they police. Maybe if they don't live in the township or the city, they live in the county. You really got to pay attention. They are trying to get rid of these people because they know that if something were to go down from the top down, that the people that are the closest in law enforcement probably would not give in just like nothing. Okay, that's why they're trying to federalize all of the policing and everything like this and move more people in on other levels to make it so that the police have harder times doing their job so that they can move towards a federalized police force. This is what's coming. You need to wake up. You need to pay attention. I'm trying to tell you right now. Okay, it's really, really serious. And you got to be paying attention. If you're not paying attention, you're missing out. So what's this going to look like in the future? Well, let me tell you one last part of the story about the present. Right now, they've taken a former president and they've tried to make him a circus, okay, to distract us from everything else that's going on. All of the chemical explosions over the last couple of days, all of that, right? The fact that our dollar is being turned into a digital dollar that will be run by the government, which they can have money that basically expires like a coupon if you don't use it in time. They can limit your ability of how much money you can have or can get. They can limit what your money that you can spend it on. This is all coming. It's about to be released this week. What is it? The 4th? Yeah, it's about to be released this week. Come in. You got to wake up. It's called the FedNow app. It's the beginning of the end, you guys. You got to wake up. I'm trying to tell you, trying to put you on. If you're not paying attention, it's time to come together. The whole table needs to be turned over. But, you know, people are too scared to even come out into the community because they tricked everybody with J6 to try to scare everybody so that people wouldn't actually take the level of action that's needed. Okay, the whole table needs to be flipped over. Nobody's going to do that now because everybody's terrified. Y'all need to grow some daggone balls. For real. What we're going through and what we're experiencing right now is super, super heavy. Like, I'm doing my best to keep it light, but it's super ultra heavy. We're talking about the continuation of not only our nation as a country, but our future as a free people. And it's not like we're completely free now. I mean, look at all the freedoms that we've lost from our parents or from our grandparents or even from our great grandparents. Freedoms that we will never know today because they've all been taken away from us. Look at the Patriot Act. Look at the Patriot Act 2. Come on, you guys. We really got to be paying attention to what's going on and all the freedoms that are being taken away. They've got all these constructions projects and stuff that they're trying to put 2030, make it 15-minute cities, condense everybody into cities so that they are only able to move around in the areas in which you want them to. And they'll have to use scan codes and chips so that you can see who they are, where they are all the time. And that's how you'll be able to pay with digital currency. But it won't be something like Bitcoin. It won't be something like Litecoin or Doge. It'll be the government's central bank digital currency. It'll be the digital dollar. It'll be the FedNow app. It'll be all of these things which are not good for freedom, which are not good for liberty. Because if you're not using paper money anymore, that means the government can track everything you can do all the time and gives you less ability to travel and do different things that you normally would. Also, if all the electricity goes out, then you really can't buy anything now, can you? Which makes you wonder about what's going to happen with electricity costs. And that's a whole nother conversation that we can have on another time. We're not going to go even into that tonight. But go back to the story of the current time. Look at what is happening with these banks that are collapsing, right? We've got these banks that are tied to cryptocurrency just seem to be collapsing. Boom, bank collapse. Boom, bank collapse. Boom, bank collapse. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 banks collapse. Now we've got another 30 banks plus flashing warnings. We got Jamie Dimon, the head of Chase Bank, one of the biggest banks in the world, okay, talking about stuff's about to get real. Real. That's what he said in his letter to the shareholders. And he says, stuff ain't about to get better the way you think it's about to get better. We're still in peril. And he said that if we don't fix and bring, how did he say? He said, if we don't fix and bring manufacturing back stateside, we're really screwed. That's what he said. This dude that run all the money. Maybe it's worth listening to. Maybe it's worth considering. I mean, person controls a lot of the money. Person sees a lot of the money. Person's trying to put you on. Maybe you want to listen. Maybe just a little bit. But it seems for some reason that the government isn't really paying attention to what exactly is going on, or that they're spurring it on. Because the question is who does the government really serve? And the answer is it's not you, at least not any longer. They're supposed to serve you, but they're too busy governing, right? Okay, they're not supposed to govern, they're supposed to serve, and they have very much so forgotten that. And that's why it's time to turn over the table, honestly. Now, I can tell you whatever's clever, I can tell you what sounds good, I can tell you what should be done. Not that I know that any of you are going to even take the measures that need to be done. Because look at everybody so scared, so terrified, so much weakness. Then they trick boys into being girls and girls into being boys, and nobody knows anything, and they don't want you to eat meat. They want you to eat bugs because they want you not to have protein. They want you not to have testosterone. They want you not to be able to stand up against the government because they know that the stuff is hitting the fan, and they are largely making it happen intentionally so that they can rein in more control over yourself. That's why they're poisoning the water, the land, and the air. They know what they're doing. This isn't something that isn't known. They know exactly what they're doing, and it's largely the elites at the top of the pyramid that are seeking to crush the rest of us under their feet. With the AI, and again, now we're moving to the future part of the story. With the AI, by the year 2030, that's 7 years away from us right now. By 2030, 40 to 60% of all jobs in all industries will be taken by machines. Now, let me tell you what that means. That means within the next 7 years, there will be a very serious wealth gap explosion, more than you've ever seen. A large part of it's going to be based on, are you a good citizen? Are you having a good social credit score, or are you being or are you performing antisocial behaviors like talking bad about the government or resisting the government's authority or trying to stand up or do something for yourself outside of what the government wants you to do? You guys really got to wake up. If you're not awake, you're asleep. I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying to tell you this story because it's an important story. This is our future yet to come, and it's almost here. So as this is happening, this giant wealth gap will develop, which we will never overcome. That's the whole point. They don't want you to be able to overcome it, because it's going to be the people that have a lot and the people that have absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not only will you have nothing, and like they say at the World Economic Forum, have nothing and be happy, but you won't even have enough food to provide for yourself to eat, because the land is poisoned, because they won't let you out of your little ghetto that they've trapped you in now, out of your little camp. Okay. You won't have food. You won't have enough to eat. You'll be weak, and you won't be able to stand up, and you won't be able to push back. This is why they're working right now, currently, on getting rid of all the firearms. They don't want any opposition. They don't want anybody to be able to challenge their authority and stand up. Why do you think they're trying to make you stop eating meat? Why do you think they're trying to put all of this crazy stuff in this foods? Why do you think that 70% of Americans are overweight, obese, and have health issues? Y'all better wake up. This isn't a mistake. This is a long-term game, and we are all being gamed. You can say, well, it's the Democrats. You can say, oh, well, it's the Republicans. It's all of the people at the top. They're all related. You got to get on this. If you're not paying attention, you sleep. I'm trying to tell you what's really going on. I really hope, excuse me, I really hope that you're paying attention and that you're getting what I'm putting down. Because honestly, I don't know how much longer I'll be able to talk about stuff like this. Fact of the matter is they're going to a whole new crazy form of government that will be completely totalitarian, and there won't be anything that the people will be able to do at that point. Now is the time to take action. I don't know what's more to tell you. Honestly, now is the time. It's past time. Every day we have less and less time to stand up and to push back. But if you choose not to, if you choose not to even speak up, you're part of the problem. You're honestly part of the problem, and you're spurring on the demise not only of our people as a nation, which we're not going to talk about depopulation and how we have a baby crisis, how we have an infertility crisis, and how we have a population decline. That's a whole separate conversation, but it's part of the whole same story, isn't it? Because the less people, the easier they are to control. The less quality foods you have, the more docile and unable to push back you are. Also, the less able you are to have children, but that's a whole nother separate conversation. Come on, people. This is the story of our future that we are writing today. It'll be written by you. It'll be written by me. It'll be written by every single person that is alive today. If you're not doing your part, if you do not stand up, if you do not speak up, what will you be able to tell those in the future if you're alive in the future? That when the stuff was going down, you did nothing. Everything is legitimately burning down around us. The dollar is collapsing. Our enemies, Russia, China, Iran, Brazil, are all joining together against us. You know, it's crazy. They've gotten many other nations on board. Saudi Arabia. It's out of control, you guys. We really, really, really need to come together and put a stop to this, what's going on in our government. I don't know how much I can emphasize that. It's time to flip over the table. But I don't know that most of you are ready to do what needs to be done. I just hope my voice can spur you to some level of action, at least to speak up and stand up and not to shut up, because that's what needs to be done. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to talk about stuff like this. I'm not sure. I know they just went after this guy today for making memes. I'm not even able to process that. Memes? You put them in jail over memes? You're calling it antisocial behavior? This is a serious problem. We need to be paying attention to what the government is doing, but instead they're distracting us with Trump. You know, orange man bad. Just throw him out to the people and let him spin. That's all that's being done. They're spinning up our wheels. And in the meantime, they're quelling us. They're destroying our food supply, our ability to produce food even. And everybody's missing it. They're destroying the value of our dollar. Most of our trading partners are no longer going to use the dollar as the default currency to trade in. This is a very serious time that we live in. And this is a story of our current history and of our future. It does not have to be bleak. It does not have to be morbid. People could stand up now. They could push back now. They could flip over the damn table now. Will that happen? I don't know. And that's really, really the big problem with January 6th and the way that they locked up all of those people, many who did nothing, many who prevented violence, many who prevented destruction. The way they locked those people up, they've got everybody scared to death of trying to stand up and trying to push back. This is very serious. It's a very serious time. These are the times that will make or break our future. You know, there's a saying, we were built for times like these. Well, we must have been, because here we are now. If you're religious and you're a believer, Now is the time for you to take action and stand up. If you're not religious, but you feel deep within inside you something's very wrong and something's going sideways in our country, now is the time to stand up and unite. If you see that stuff that's happening now will really impact our future and not in a good way as a nation, it's time to stand up now. We're pushing more and more to consolidated authoritarianism, and that will lead us straight down the road to one united government with the rest of the world and starting off with Europe. We really need to fix our country. They say make America great again. It's make America great again immediately. It needs to happen now. Yesterday, 5 weeks ago, okay, before Biden took office, it needs to happen now. Very seriously. What's going on will not be able to so easily be undone without the shedding of blood, because that's to the point of where we're getting right now. And I know some people will say, oh, well, Marcus, don't you think that's a little too serious? No, I don't think it's serious enough. I already told you this country was founded on religious freedom and your right to bear arms, that you should have a firearm. And they're trying to take those rights away just so that you can't communicate with others. Excuse me. So that you're not able to build camaraderie and fellowship with others that might think the same way that you do. That's why they're doing what they're doing. That's why all of this is being done. They don't want you to push back. They don't want you to stand up. They don't want you to be strong. If you see what is going on, let some other people know. Tell them, inform them. Hopefully we can gather enough people to be the remnant of what is left. Because I just don't know that I see people standing up like they did in the Revolutionary War. They've divided us so much. They've taken so many of the weapons. They've made it so difficult to buy ammunition. They're making it more difficult to buy firearms every day. All of these ammunition places seem to be going on fire. All of these fabrication facilities, which could be used to create more firearms, if they were retrofitted, seem to be going up in flames and blowing up and stuff too. Something to pay attention to. This will be our future if that is what you have, if that's what you have it. But it doesn't have to be. If you'll stand up, then we can make a real serious difference. But it has to be everybody starting to come together. And I don't want to preach too loud about this because, people start preaching unity and stuff like that. They end up disappeared, missing some of their skull, with their blood outside their body. Like, I'm not trying to end up like that, but I would seriously like for you guys to stand up, unite, and push back. I'm not able to do it alone. There's so few people that are even willing to talk about it. It's so sad. And I see it happening. And I don't know what to do at this point because I don't know how many of you would even be able to take action or willing to take action, because every single day we lose more ground. Like Biden said, he said you'll need F-16s and you'll need nukes. Then he downgraded it. He said F-14s and he didn't say nukes the next time. So, hey, let's go half on an F-14. I'm joking, but I'm also serious. We really need to be paying attention. Now is the time. If there ever was a time to stand up, if there ever was a time to speak up, if there ever was a time not to shut up, now is the time, and it is time to take action. It really very much so is. We don't have years. We've only got a couple weeks. We got maybe a few months. The stuff has already hit the fan. Everything is already collapsing. Once it collapses even further, it'll be irreparable. It'll be irreparable. You won't be able to be repaired at all. That's why I told you about the AI and the machines and stuff that are coming down the pipeline that are already here. look at what's going on. Look at McDonald's automating all of their stores. That's why they're about to have massive layoffs. Look at Denny. Denny's got the robots and stuff in them in many locations. You guys got to be paying attention. If you're not paying attention, you're missing everything. And that's my message to you. Please stay strong. Please stay strong. Please pass the message on. Like, share, subscribe on my page. Maybe click on the website, buy a little something. We got some more stuff coming up on the website tomorrow. Some new drops. But definitely support, pick something up for yourself, a friend, family member. Support. Make sure you follow, like, share, all of that good stuff. These are messages that need to be heard. And that's really the end of the story, or it's the beginning of the rest of the story for our future. I really wish you all the best. I really wish you more courage. I really wish you tenacity. I really pray that we are able to push back against what's going on to limit the impacts of what's happening. Do I think it'll be able to be stopped? No. But I do know for a fact that we can slow it down, that we can make awful softer, and that we can make it less serious if we work hard to push back and restore our country to its roots, to our founding documents, and to our historical ways. But that's why they're trying to get rid of all of the past. And with that, I'm going to sign off for tonight. And the next few shows and stuff that you'll start to see will be of a completely different tone. Will be in a completely different direction. Because at this point, this is my warning. This is my call for whoever is out there, everyone that's out there. And this is my prayer. Please stand up, speak up. Don't shut up. Take action. Stay strong. You be blessed. You be well.